normally when I see a movie I like, I just kind of yammer on about it to friends and family and anyone who will listen. But the people I usually yammer at are all in America and I'm in Japan. So I figure I'm going to yammer at the internet as a whole, and those people can pick it up and other friends can watch if they want, and, whoever. So this is basically a movie review of Sherlock Holmes. And it's going to be full of spoilers. If you don't want if you don't want all the plot twists of the movie ruined, don't watch, because I'm not going to have any regard for that. So I'm not the #1 Sherlock Holmes fan in the world. I've read some of the stories. I liked them. I would like to read more if I have the time. But it's not like some major compelling desire in my life to read all the Sherlock Holmes stories and know everything there is to know about Sherlock Holmes and the writer, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Doesn't concern me. But even so, when I saw the trailers for the Sherlock Holmes movies, and it was all running and fighting and explosions and romance, I'm like, that doesn't sound anything like Sherlock Holmes. No, really, what about this is Sherlock Holmes? But I found myself with some spare time near a movie theater, and I felt like catching a film. The only thing that looked remotely appealing that was showing was Sherlock Holmes. So I went in expecting to see something that had nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes, but was still probably kind of entertaining. I think they pulled it off, though. There were a lot of action elements, but there were also plenty of detective elements, an interesting mystery, and also just a lot of good character development, and I loved the characters. I love the presentation of Holmes and Watson's fiancée, and Irene Adler, and Moriarty, and I'll get to him because he's... And the action elements didn't even feel that out of place. Because from the very beginning, they took pains to show that Holmes, at least when he was being an action hero, this was a combination of him being in good shape, which is documented in the stories, he's in pretty good shape, and him being a quick thinker and being able to figure out a great deal of detail from a very little observation. If he's in a chase scene, then he knows the terrain and the layout, and he knows where he's going, and he's also predicted where the person he's chasing is going, and figured out the correct way to intersect them and catch them. And so he just carries through with that. And if it's a fight scene, he's analyzed the opponent a little bit to figure out what is the most effective way to attack them, and how are they going to react to that attack, and how can he work with their attacks, and he just goes through with the plan. So basically it's quickly make a plan, carry through the plan, requires them to be in good condition, but I think it really works. Watson's role in the action is tied to his military background, which I think is also from the stories that he was in the military. So they just kind of rely on that. It's not as creative, but he's also quite effective. So that's great. The romance, like I said, they have Irene Adler in this. I believe that's her name. It's been about a week and a half since I saw the movie, so I may have forgotten her name. But if I recall, this is a character from the stories who maybe Holmes didn't view as a potential romantic interest, but at least as an intellectual rival, which is something you can't find with a lot of men, let alone a lot of women. And in the movie, Watson states that she's outsmarted Holmes twice, so clearly very much a rival in that sense. And also, she is a thief. She is on the other side of the law. Holmes is not 100%, he's not a member of the police force, but he's basically on the side of the law. So there's tension there, but there's also attraction, both intellectual and physical. But it's like they never really go into a major passionate romance. There's maybe a suggestion that there was something at some point, but he's just kind of gotten tired of being betrayed because, well, she does that. She's not particularly trustworthy. And while it's made very clear that she does care about him, she goes about it in her own way, and certainly doesn't let it get in the way of her own lifestyle and objectives, and just going around being world-class awesome thief. So I think that their relationship is really fun and fascinating. And then let's see. And I like... Well, one of the things that they did in this is that Holmes is brilliant, but also somewhat neurotic. If he doesn't have a sufficiently challenging case to devote his mental faculties to, he is going to devote them to insanity. He's going to pull off insane experiments, test drugs on the dog, and just generally terrify everyone around him, with Watson being his voice of reason. And this adds some tension to the fact that Watson is getting married and moving out, and Holmes is opposed to this, one, because he's not really a fan of the whole romantic love thing, and also he doesn't feel like Watson should be settling down and tying himself to a woman when he's a man of action. But also because I don't think Holmes can cope without Watson. And while he wouldn't say that, I think he knows it. And I don't think this really has any tie to the books, this sort of neurosis of Holmes, but I like it because, as far as I can recall, Holmes' only real flaw ever was being overly arrogant about how awesome he was. I mean, did he have any other flaws? Even the arrogance was justified. He was awesome. So I like this. He's a little more human. He's less of a Gary Stu. So I like that. But I think what really seals it for me was Moriarty and how he's handled. Because Moriarty is not the main villain of the movie. He's in the movie, but he's not the main villain. And nor is he like the grand mastermind behind the villain who turns out to only have been like a minion, and the real threat to Contessa is still out there. No. That can work, but I don't think it would have been right for Moriarty. But it's not what they did. What Moriarty did, he was in this movie, he had his own agenda, it did intersect with the main villains. The main villain had built a machine to pump gas into Parliament, and Moriarty wanted one particular component of that machine, and it wasn't the part that pumped the poison gas into Parliament. It wasn't anything with the poison gas. It was a remote control that allowed the main villain to activate this machine from a distance, which in 1860 is incredibly advanced, cutting-edge technology. And that's what Moriarty wanted. And he got it. By the end of the film, he did get that. But you didn't know until he'd already gotten it that he wanted it. You had no idea what he wanted. He showed up in like 2 scenes. You never saw his face. You didn't know his name unless you guessed just by his sheer awesome that he was Moriarty. And it does set him up to be the villain for the next movie, which I am looking forward to. But But I think just overall, it was really well done with Moriarty, and he was possibly the best thing in the movie. And I think I'm done here.